Hello Mousers! Because I've been doing this show for a while now, a few years in fact, I occasionally get people asking, how do you make a web show? So I thought, since I've had a few of those questions lately, we would actually talk about that today. Now I've got a 10-step program for you on how to do a web show. The first one is, of course, to decide on what subject or subjects you're actually interested in making videos on. For my channel, I'm very interested in politics, news and law, so that's what I mainly cover on the Knobmouse channel. I have the news on Tuesday. Mondays are usually legal news, but sometimes I go off on something else, and politics comes up wherever it can. So that's my focus for my show. If you have different interests, that's perfectly fine. I know a lot of good channels that are viral videos, talking about gaming, talking about arts and crafts or cookery. They're all very good if you are interested in that. And that's the thing, you've got to be interested in it. You don't want to just go, oh, gaming's popular, I'll make a gaming show or anything like that. If you don't have the interest in it, it's not going to work. So pick one or more subjects that you're actually interested in, because that way you'll be able to keep up a show. Which brings me into my second point. Decide on a schedule for your show that you are actually going to be able to stick to. You've got to be able to put out maybe a video, 2 videos, 3 videos, 5 videos a week if you want to have an actual update schedule. If you're just doing random videos every now and again, then go ahead, that's fine. But that's not a web show, that's one-offs that you put up every now and again when you can. And there's nothing wrong with that. That works just fine, but we're talking about web shows here, so you've got to have a schedule. So, what's your schedule? Do you think you could put aside an hour, maybe an hour and a half every other day to make a show? Because I'll tell you now, even for a 4-minute show, it's going to take a lot more than 4 minutes to make. So my biggest tip for this part is make a video and then see how long it takes you to edit that. Remember that it will eventually get quicker to edit, but you're going to need time for editing. So make a video, make 2 or 3 videos, and then edit them, see how long it takes, and then decide how often are you able to give that kind of time to this project, because that's what you'll be doing. And then once you've got your schedule, try and stick to it as best as you can. The third one is one that's going to be quick and simple. Decide on a name for your YouTube channel that you can actually pronounce. Because I'll tell you now, if anyone says, oh, I found this great channel, it's something I can't pronounce, it's like H4723B, or is it C? I can't remember, look it up. That's when you lose potential word of mouth. Now, I know it's early to be thinking about word of mouth advertising, but it is one of the major ways that people will get to know you and your show. So pick a name that you can actually pronounce. You could have something stupid, like my channel's called Knobmouse. Knobmouse is a character in a comic that I do. It's got nothing to do with the show, but I needed a username that people might remember and that they could pronounce, so Knobmouse it is. My other channel is ZJKR. Very easy to remember, it's my initials. So once you've got a pronounceable name, register it on YouTube or wherever you're actually going to be hosting a show. I'm assuming that it's probably YouTube because it's big, but there are other video content providers available, as the BBC would often say. And then you're set. So what's next? Well, next up is, of course, a major one. Don't worry about the quality of your videos when you start. I'm not talking about content, because content will, of course, not be as good at the start as when you get further in. Experience helps a lot. You've only got to go back to my first few shows where you'll see that I don't really have presentation down or really know what I'm doing. But now I've got a bit of a presentation style that's developed for me and it works for me, and you will get the same thing. So don't worry about whether you've got experience in presentation or not, just make sure you do it. So presentation skills not what I'm really about here. What I'm talking about is the quality of the video recording. I'm videoing this on a mobile phone. It's an iPhone 4, I'm filming it in 720 HD, and I've got to get a lot of light in so that it will get a decent picture. So you can see me without a lot of grain. But there are better cameras out there, and I could be using one, but I'm not. I'm using what I've got, and later on, when I can afford to spend on a camera rather than on other things that I need for my business, then I'll improve the camera. But for now, I'm not worrying about what quality the camera is, because it's good enough to get a show out, and you'll be the same. It doesn't matter whether you're recording on a webcam or whether you've got a high-end video camera, because most people will watch YouTube in a little box, and a webcam is good enough for that. So don't worry about the quality of the video. And just as long as you can be seen, don't worry about the sound. As long as you can be heard and understood, you're fine. It doesn't matter if it's a high-end boom microphone used on the latest films, or whether it's the microphone built into your camera. Whatever it is, as long as you can be heard, go with it. And if it's really bad, but you've got a mic that touches your computer and that's pretty good, then re-record your sound. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you lip sync so that it doesn't go quite jarring, you'll be fine. I've done that myself in a few videos, but it does take more time for editing. So remember, if you're going to do that, you've got to add that onto your editing time. Which leads us straight into point 5. Don't worry about what you're editing with. There are lots of people out there that will say, oh, you've got to use Final Cut Pro. They're wrong. Similarly, there's people that will say, you've got to use Adobe Premiere. They're wrong too. I've used both of those. I've also used iMovie and Windows Media Maker. At one point, I tried using Nero Vision Express, which comes with a DVD editing program. They all work. As long as you're familiar with what you're doing and you can set it up and you're willing to put the time in, you can do whatever you want with any editing software you want. I have Adobe Premiere here. I bought it back in 2004 when I was first starting to think about putting together a show. I don't use it now. I've got a copy of Final Cut Pro that I occasionally use, and it's alright, but I don't use it much because my 2006 MacBook, which is what I actually edit on rather than the big desktop machine here that you see in the background, is actually running Linux and can't run Final Cut Pro. But I use a MacBook for editing, and Final Cut Pro is quite slow in it. So what do I use instead? If Final Cut Pro is something that I only use for really intensive editing, things where I need a lot of effects, what do I use for general? iMovie. iMovie is quick, it's simple, it's got everything that you'll need for a regular style show, like the one I'm doing here where I'm talking to a camera and only occasionally use effects. More than that, it's got some of the higher end facilities in it. They're not brilliant, they're not fully featured, it's got a basic set of features for its high end stuff, but I made the intro with all of my programs with it, I made the end cards with all of my programs in it, with the little spinning bit in the background and the things that stick out and all that, and the shrinking effect. All of that is done in iMovie. It does everything you'll need, especially when you're starting out. So don't worry about what you've got, work with it, and you'll be surprised at just what you can do. Having said that, whatever editing software you use, learn to edit. A lot of the show that you're looking at here has been edited down. The main reason is I've got a bit of a stammer, so I have to cut out all the times when I stop speaking like that. Sometimes I'll leave in little bits if it's not too long a gap in between what I've said and what I say next, but most of the time I cut everything out. If I want to say something and I find that I could have said it better, I'll say it again, and then I'll edit out the first one, so you only get a long stream of actual presentation rather than my slip-ups and asides and things like that. Moreover, when we're talking to camera, a lot of the time we'll say and things like that. We'll forget what we're saying, flood lines and things like that. Cut all of that out, because what you want is a long, professional stream to camera. That's what makes a decent video, so remember to edit everything out that you don't want so your presentation is enhanced rather than detracted from. Because even when you're saying the best thing in the world and that everyone will agree with, if you're not saying it in a good presentation style because your editing is wrong, people will stop listening. Going back to setting up your schedule, remember you have to post videos on a regular schedule. I know that occasionally I'll stop posting for a few days. That's just unfortunate. Things happen where I can't put up a video, and that is understandable. But if you decide that you're going to have a daily schedule but you only post 3 videos and then take 6 months off, there's going to be a bit of a problem. You're probably going to lose your audience. In fact, you almost certainly will, and then it'll take a bit of time to get it back. So remember, once you've decided on your schedule and you know that you can stick to it, actually do stick to it. And if there's going to be a change, tell people, so that they know that you're not just abandoning your show and you've gone and off to do something else. They know that you'll be back eventually. Back onto editing, remember that you have to record more than you're actually going to show. Videos that are about 4 minutes long are, on average, 8 minutes of recorded footage. Because you'll edit lots down, you'll decide that actually this bit works and this bit doesn't, so you'll cut out bits that even you fully intended to, when you're recording, to actually put into the video. Sometimes you just won't put it in. So record more than you actually will eventually use. My 10-minute videos that I sometimes do are probably 20 to 25 minutes of recorded footage. And then I edit out the bits that just don't work once I've got to see it from the point of view of the viewer. It's the same thing with films, so you've got to expect it here. Okay, we're on the home stretch now, so don't worry. Point 9. Remember that if you're not enjoying what you're doing, it's time to either take a break for a bit and have a bit of time to recharge your batteries, announce that you're going on a break, but do take a break, or simply stop. It depends on how severe it is that you're not enjoying it. So if you need a break, you're tired, you're exhausted, you just don't want to do another video in a long stream of videos, then take a break. That's perfectly fine. Say when you're probably going to be back, and then come back. A lot of the time that is all you'll need to get really into the spirit of recording again. That's not a problem. People take breaks from work all the time. That's what holidays are for. But if it's got to the point where you really, really, really don't want to ever have to turn on a camera again, then maybe it's just not for you. Maybe it's time to quit. And again, doesn't matter. You can always come back later if you change your mind. It's not going to cause too much of a problem. Yeah, sure, you'll have to build your audience again if you've been away for a long time, but that's fine. You've done it once, you can do it again. Never, under any circumstances, should you turn what you wanted to do as a fun thing, and perhaps as a career, into a chore. If it ever gets to the point where it's mind-numbing and horrible and you just don't like it anymore, take a break or quit. There's nothing wrong in that. And finally, remember that you won't get fame and fortune right from the start. This does mean a lot of work. It means a lot of perseverance. You won't get picked up by some major YouTuber and recommended to everyone right at the start, unless you manage to pull in a favour or something like that, or you've created something that is so simply amazing that everyone wants to see it. Chances are that's not going to happen. So remember, this is going to be a perseverance thing. It's a long, hard slog, but you do get there eventually. Okay, that's all I've got for you today. So thank you very much for watching. If you did like this, remember to click the like button, share it with your friends so that they can see how to make some web series of their own, and subscribe for future videos. But until next time, I've been Kirk-Robinson. You've been watching the Knob Mouse channel, and I'll see you tomorrow.